Yahoo! Well, we're back, and I'm pretty sure Dewalt conned me. Like, what do you mean? All right. If you read right here and on the sales page on Amazon, 6-stage torque control. That is a lie. That is an outright lie. If you remember in the previous hour-long video, if you made it all the way through, at some point, probably more than halfway, probably 3/4 of the way through, I mentioned some of the other brands, especially the smaller ones like this, that say they have torque control, don't have torque control. It's just speeds. As nice, dude, I don't even know how to show this. Like, can you see that finish? This DeWalt is actually made, like the grip on here is literally grippy. That's like textured, hard, like legit. That's like got to be the same as a Pro. This front face is a little weak compared to it, but like compared to the even the gyroscopic, where it's just gyroscopic, which is just this thin or smooth, sorry, not thin plastic. This thing is built, you know, it's got rubber on its ass, like it's built well. Well, I was playing with it as I was watching YouTube video, reading some stuff. Squares was asking me like, so what was actually like updated in 24H2? And I broke it down. A lot of things, guys. A lot of things. A lot of major things. A lot of major back end things. So I was playing with this, and I noticed. Here's what I noticed. Because we do have 2 bars. Like we got it fairly charged before I had to charge my phone from doing these videos, right? Forward, listen to it. Now backwards. Do that quicker. You can hear in reverse, it's got more RPMs, than forward. Read the box, read the manual. That's not a thing, right? Read the 360 RPMs per second, whatever, right? Not a thing. Okay, then, you know, I'm playing around with it. I'm like, that's weird. I might have to... There's forward. It's just way slower. I might have to reach out to DeWalt and be like, hey, did you know your screwdriver is actually going slower in forward than it is in reverse? Like, what the heck is up with that? I'm like, shit, if all these have to be recalled, etc. Then I actually went and used it. As I drop it on the floor. It's durable. So here we go. I was going here, and I was just like, I just need a screw. So here's a thumb screw. I can undo it with my thumb. That's for 2.5-inch hard drives, right? So on this guy, I would normally have it on 2. That is normally what I have it on my Snap-on as well. 1, or Milwaukee as well. I always just keep on 2. 1 is often too light, as in like even you grabbing it with your fingers, you don't have to torque. It's just loose, effectively. So you want 2. 3 starts getting into like you kind of took a screwdriver and went with it. 4 ends up getting to be like tight. So often I will do the things that are more sensitive at 2, and then like motherboard screws 3, power supply screws 3 or 4, like the stuff that's really got to be in there good, you know, like 3, maybe 4. But normally I'm on 2. Worst case, if I'm like, I don't think that's tight enough, that thing's heavy, I'll put it up on a little bit higher, right? So I'm testing this based on, well, let's see if I can show this too. I need the clamp because I need both my hands. 1 second. Because before I went to the computer, what I did is I tested something because I'm playing around with it. Remember, I'm just kind of fidgeting with shit. There's a reason why fidget toys were invented. Let's put it that way. So, when I noticed the speed, I'm like, I wonder if I can hold this thing back. You know, I have it on Torque 1. A lot of these devices, if you put it on Torque 1, you can hold it back yourself. So here, Torque 1, thingy, or especially if I put this here with the hex, I can hold the torque one back. There you go. See, if this wasn't skinny, I could probably do it with the shank of the drill bit even. That's how light torque one is. And, well, I was wondering, like, hey, since it goes slower, you know, instead of the faster, I wonder in this way if I can hold it back. And I grabbed it, and I can make that bog down. You can listen, right? If I do it good enough, I can actually stop it. Especially if I grab the you know the battery or the magnet that's on the hex, it just stops. Right? There you go. Now, if I do this in reverse, I try the same thing, it's ripping. I can't even hope to stop that. If I grab the hex, it just rips it out of my hand. So you can tell not only in reverse is it going faster, but it has quote-unquote higher torque. So that is where I then went down here, and I was like, huh, well, let's put this up. Like, I put it up to 2, right? And then I grabbed it. I can't stop it anymore. I can't stop it anymore. And that is a lot more just for going 1 torque up. Like, I mean, I can probably show you on this guy. I can even stop 2 by hand. See? So if we're going from 1 to 2, that's, and the Bosch is kind of like that. But not really. This just has less settings. It's got 6 settings, right? But 1 I can stop easily. 2, it's got way more beans, right? But if you notice, it actually has an actual clutch in there. That's why I wanted this front piece, you know. So I just leave this one on 1 because if you can tell, it's got more beans on 1 than some of these other ones do. So with that in mind, I was like, oh, I'll put it on 2. And I cannot stop this on 2. Right? Like at all on the shank. It starts ripping out of my hands if I use the magnet that's on the hex, right? Something else I noticed is I was like, sounds a bit higher pitched. Well, you put it on 6. Listen to this. Back. It's full speed. So this, despite saying on Amazon and on the box, is not torque control. It is speed control. I wonder if we can even use it while it's on. Now it seems to be whatever this is set at when you start. So if I'm on 6, if I go down, it doesn't change. If I restart, it's slower. If I put up to 6, it does not speed up. So it's whatever this is set to when this engages. Must be some logic brain boxery in there because it is USB-C controlled. But yeah, so then I'm like, if that's that's a speed setting, not a torque setting. Because remember, you don't have a variable here. Gyroscopic, you go more, it goes faster. You go more, it goes way faster. And you can throttle it just like you would a variable trigger on a drill. Maybe not to the point of that. If you're running the snap-on ones, are actually more... It feels like when they went to the brushless, they only got 3 stages in there for controllability. Whereas the older ones, like the 700 series and even 600 series, are analog. And you have the full, basically the whole range of it. And you can kind of hear this guy, because it's got the gyroscopic control, it steps itself up. Probably closer to how the newer brushless snap-ons do, whereas that's why I prefer the older, even the ones that are 14.4, but they're the 700 series, is because they're actually analog. Brushed motors, and you're like, oh, you prefer brush motor, brushless is better. Yeah, but I prefer the trigger because it doesn't have a digital trigger, or digital in the same way. I'm pretty sure it's just doing voltage regulation or something. So that's effectively what this is doing here. This is actually either your gyroscopic speed control, or it's your variable trigger. You know, like on your snap on here, the more you pull it back, the faster she rips, etc. That's what this number is on the bottom. It's not torque. I also went and tested that. That's where we were down on the floor earlier. So, we will start with our example. I didn't start with that because I know how the clutch works with the torque settings. Also, something very weird that I noticed. When you eject the bit, it doesn't actually eject. You have to do this snap-on thing where you kind of push it out and then pull it at the same time, which is fine. The thing is, with the snap-on, this collar is a little shorter, so it's easier to do. It's a little bit wider and a little bit shorter. Not the end of the world. Whereas on this guy, if you do that, it comes loose. Very similar. There's a little bit of play here. I feel like there's more play here. See, there's like a lot more play, and then when you gotta. Whereas if you saw this when I ejected it halfway across the room. So, thumb screw. I can turn it by hand. Level 1. First, we're going to reverse it, and this is why I like the gyroscopic control. You go back, tighten it up. There you go. You got the clutch. It clutches. So, when I do this, it's tight, but I can still undo it. Right? And I did go, it's kind of like a torque wrench with this sort of clutch. If you force it, like a torque wrench, if it goes click, if you have a click style torque wrench and you keep pulling, it's going to keep going. But if we go like with this with 2, we're getting just a touch tighter. Like that to use my thumb is tight. Like that would be like you came and snugged it up with your thumb there, right? If we do 3, right, which are, like I said, I do sometimes, you can hear a little bit higher pitch do that, and I can no longer undo that with my thumbs, right? So we're going to take this bit, and we're going to use this guy. This speed control does not affect the reverse, right? So we're going to put that on here. It undoes that fine. This thing actually has a bunch of torque. Like, it does take a little bit to get going, and you can kind of hear that when you hear it, like it ramps up. Now here's 1. It kind of like just stops the motor. And that is bloody tight. Like that is, here, let's reverse it. Right, and we're gonna go 1 forward. And it does stop it, right? But like I said, go dang tight. And how you can tell that this thing is a speed control is you put it on 2. And you go. It just goes faster. But it's still just as freaking tight. So this torque, quote unquote, torque control is not torque control. It is speed control. Now, like I've said, people do quote unquote torque control with their impact drivers or with their drill drivers by just like, oh, I know when to let off so I don't strip it, sort of thing. That's effectively torque control. That's effectively what this is saying it's doing by doing that with the speeds. However, I just showed you true torque control with this, with a clutch, 1 to 3. You can do that digitally as well. So rather than having a physical clutch that goes click, 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 and basically there's a collar in here that's slipping, right? There's a piece that's separated. There's a certain spring that's pushing You're pushing this. The tighter you make this, the more you're pushing the spring down on the collar, so the more force it has inside of here. Right, so down at 1 and 2, what you're causing is the tension pushing down. That's why you need this distance here. The tension pushing down on this collar is very low, so it slips, and that's where your click, 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 click noises. You can do that digitally. There's obviously digital torque stuff, but this isn't doing that. And you can see that by the fact that all it does, when you say, let's put it, there's 3. There's 3 going... That was reverse. So that's 3 to 4 going forward. Here's 1. Much slower. I'll get 6 out. Much faster again. So they're basically going on the fact that it's going slower. You're going to have less speed and less ramp up to get it torqued down. However, I showed you on something like this that's already pre-threaded, there is no torque difference between 1, 2. I fear even going to 3 because it's going to crank it down too far. That was my whole issue with having these that like, you know, some people get these that don't have any sort of torque limiting on them. Even this guy you can buy in a straight fashion with no chuck. I mean, depending what you're doing, I can see it, but like most stuff I don't want to squish it. You know what I mean? And I want that. Maybe don't have it this low as I do on computers, but I'll put it like 9 or something, so it at least stops. Like, you know, it's not just gonna, you know, like if you're driving a screw into wood and you're trying to put a panel on it, if you have no torque limitation at all, it's just gonna keep going and start shoving that metal plate or the washer or whatever straight and pulling it through and into the wood. That's where you want your torque, your torque control via the clutch. This is not torque control, it's speed control. So this, I do not normally send shit back, but I'm gonna call Dewalt out for this. Sent him this video on Twitter. I'm looking at you guys. And it's going back to Amazon because I bought this for doing that based on that being torque control. Just like this. Or any of the other screwdrivers I've shown you. As low as $40, and this is $80. That, with 2 batteries, is $120. Found it on Amazon. Currently out of stock. The straight screwdriver version of that is $80 with 1 battery, I believe. So that's what I would get instead of this, because this means nothing. Meaningless. I'm disappointed. This is a very well physically built tool. Like I said, the balance on the weight is a little bit forward, but with a bit in and you pushing this collar, the balance of the tool is very, very good. I was surprised to see that they had done torque control without a clutch. Like I said, it is possible to do that digitally. Instead, they're controlling the speed of the motor. I don't even know if they're digitally controlling the speed of the motor. I mean, I'm guessing they are, because if you change this while it's running, it's not an analog control like a potentiometer or something like that. It could still be a potentiometer, actually. It's just that it's only checking. There are notches in it. You can hear him clicking through. So it could still, be, I guess, be a potentiometer at some point, but it's not like an analog potentiometer where the voltage is running through here, and it's basically just a speed control. In this case, they're basically figuring out notches in the decoder, and then putting the speed of it at that. And they're doing what people do when they're like, oh, I can control the torque of this. I know when to stop. That's effectively what they're doing. That is not torques. These 15, 16-inch Clue Max, that is torque control. Disappointed, because theoretically, this this had a place. I don't know if it was going to be the place for me for building PCs. Like I said, I often have to do things this way. And then that makes this collar very awkward. But for people doing switch plates and stuff, you know, I could see using this. However, once again, it's just slower. You saw it. So what would happen if you use this for a switch plate? It would just keep screwing it in and crushing the plastic plate if you're using screws on your switch plate. The build is so nice on this thing. Look at that finish. That's like an orange peel, purposeful orange peel, almost like a powder coat finish. It's not metal, so I don't know that they did a powder coat finish, but then this is injection molded right into it. Like it feels durable, feels grippy. They did like this part here, this ring that you push on, that's rubberized, whereas this other part is like, you know, like your standard nylon plastic or whatever. The only piece on here that feels chintzy is this plastic cap and that sort of diffused light. But, you know, if you look at this guy, it's got that same sort of diffused light there. But for me, it could never be part of my toolkit because that's not actual torque control. Now this makes me wonder if what I said about the other ones where they say they have torque but they're just speeds are also the same way. And I wonder if this is how the first gen Bosch is. When people said, oh, there's like a dial on the bottom for that. Being that I know how the clutch works in this, as I've had to repair them and pull them apart, specifically in drill drivers, and I've pulled apart my Milwaukee screwdriver to get it working. The battery thing still doesn't detect properly. That also may be because it uses the original M12 that are like 1 amp hour or something. So maybe it just doesn't detect newer batteries properly. But otherwise it fully functions. And I pulled it all apart after watching ABE's videos. I'm like, you know what? Worst case, this thing's broken. I think I can handle it. And I even had it apart all the way up to the clutch and had the internals there. So I don't know, unless you're sensing torque digitally, which has gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And this is not cheap. Remember, you can get Torque Test Channel's electric screwdriver of the year that they said 3 torques. I think it's 3 speeds. We might have to buy it for $25. It beat out in like every average all the categories. It beat out even the the straight version of this that doesn't have the clutch for $25. So this with 80 has to bring the build quality. It did. Has to bring, you know, like this collar is really nice. This switch between forward and back. You're not faffing around with shit back here. That's great. So for $80, you should have had real torque sensing. You know, like you know, my hand can do it here. Oh, loose, tight, tighter, even tighter, right? You know, see, I can get that off. Whereas this thing, it's speed control. It's just speed control. Try to get you guys a link for this one. It might be on back order right now. Otherwise, look for other places. I did find a really cute little case too. No idea why Amazon even has it, but it's like actually like a little clamshell hard case for this thing. That holds the charger, the drill as is, and one additional battery. I might end up picking that up because it's really cute. It looks like a you know, like it kind of sits like this with the charger here and then the second battery here. For somebody who doesn't use this all the time, if you're one of those guys that would only pull this up for doing builds or stuff around the house, you want a nice place to store it, that could be like a nice pickup. They do make one for the straight only one too, something like this. As well as some other stuff. And I was like, oh, like I that's the kind of cool stuff you can find on Amazon. Like Greekia, if you ever need headphones cases for like weird, like my AHD 2000s, I needed a headphone case for it. They make one. Like, and this is like 10 years after those were relevant. They make the M1ST case, the only company that makes a hard shell M1ST case that I have at work right now. So whatever weird company made a little sort of case to keep this in, and if you're more of somebody who would pull this out to do, you know, like something around the house every now and then, or build your PC and you want a nice space to store it, that case is, it's like, oh, look at the cute little case. So that's what I would go for. I also did see third-party replacement batteries for this because I know these 8 volts are getting a little bit harder to find. So, I mean, as long as you keep good care of the tool and you can put batteries in it, keep using it. Like I said, I've shown you my older CTS 661 from Snap-on that I have had. It's made in 2012. I think that's the first year of their lithium-ion tools, because I have their NiCad tools dated 2012 and even 2013. So that's very early into their lithium stuff. And I've been using it. I've been working with the company I got it from for more than 10 years already. So and that was what I was paid with for my first job, because I'm like, I want that. They're like, you want this one? And I'm like, yes, I want that right there. And I'm about to have it rebuilt, and I've had batteries refurbished for it. So pick you up one of these. What the fuck, Dewalt?